Francis Ngannou versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik takes place on the main card in the feature fight of UFC 249, Ferguson versus Gaethje on May the 9th, and I can't fucking wait for this fight. If I had to guarantee you one fight on this card not going the distance, it would be Ngannou versus Rosenstruik. However, I am very aware that I said that exact same statement and sentence before Ngannou versus Lewis, so fingers crossed we don't get a repeat of that nightmare that we watched between Ngannou and Lewis. But I think that Ngannou versus Rosenstruik is a completely different fight. First of all, Ngannou was coming off a humiliating loss against Stipe Miocic in the Derek Lewis fight. Derek Lewis had a back injury as well. It was kind of like a perfect storm to not work out well in terms of entertaining fans. However, Ngannou's back on a hot streak. Rosenstruik's on a hot streak and has been since he started his fucking MMA career because he's completely undefeated. This is a completely different situation. I think we're going to see the best of both men in that octagon because both of them are in their prime. 32 at heavyweight is like 20 at bantamweight, I'll be honest with you. 33 for Ngannou, 21 at bantamweight as well. These guys are in their heavyweight primes. The best they've ever been in their career, the pair of them. It's not like Ngannou's on a downward spiral like Overeem kind of is and JDS kind of is. This is a real legit prime heavyweight that could be taking the belt next. If I had to bet on anyone in the division taking the heavyweight belt once Stipe and DC are gone, I would bet on Francis Ngannou. I would even bet on Francis Ngannou to beat Stipe Miocic in a rematch. However, I've kind of just revealed who I'm predicting. I'm staying with my prediction of Francis Ngannou. I made a prediction video for this not too long ago, but it was on April 18th. I was having trouble getting too excited for it because I know that one call from Disney and the entire show was over. Ngannou versus Rosenstruik is an amazing fight, though. I think Ngannou's just better than him. I really do. I think he's faster. He's got a much longer reach as well at heavyweight. He's a bigger man. He's stronger. I know that for a fact. I just think he's going to beat him. And I also just look at some of the comparatives in their career. They fought a lot of the same people, actually, in terms of Arlovski and Overeem. And we've seen very different things. In the Arlovski fight, we saw... When you watch the Arlovski fights, I know they're both impressive KOs over Andrei Arlovski, but when you really watch how Andrei Arlovski approached those fights, it's kind of like, oh, no wonder you got fucking KO'd, you idiot. Go back and watch Arlovski versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Go back and watch Arlovski versus Francis Ngannou. It's like, does he not know who's in front of him right now and that they can KO him at any point? And Andrei Arlovski, maybe he doesn't have the self-awareness to understand that maybe his chin is not what it used to be because he just came blitzing forward against a pair of these absolute behemoths in their heavyweight division with no regard for defense whatsoever. And honestly, when you see how much show money Andrei Arlovski gets, it's no wonder that he charged forward like that. I'm not trying to say he took a dive, but Jesus Christ, I mean, he gets a bit of a good show money. He's been around the game for a very long time. If you're ever wondering why Andrei Arlovski keeps risking his life in the cage every single time, it's because that payment is somewhat decent. However, he blitzed forward against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Rozenstruik caught him with a check hook. It's actually a check hook that we've seen in Rozenstruik's kickboxing career quite a bit. He likes that fadeaway hook. He uses it very well. Speaking of the kickboxing career, Jairzinho Rozenstruik is the most credited striker out of the pair of these two. I think he's the more technical striker out of the pair of them. He throws things more orthodox. He throws the straights better. He throws the hooks more clean. I just think that in MMA, having those credentials doesn't often mean a lot, you know? Because we see like Anthony Pettis KO Wonderboy. Like these things happen at welterweight. So if I'm looking at heavyweight, I'm looking at that division. I mean, I watched Kelvin Gastelum head kick and robble and wob and almost rock and finish Israel Adesanya before shooting for a takedown. It kind of tells me that all of these established credentials outside of the MMA world somewhat mean way less when you've got 4-ounce gloves on. However, I think Ngannou's going to get the job done. I think he's going to KO Rozenstruik in the first round. I don't think Rozenstruik has ever been in this situation before. When you look at his career and who he's come up against in the heavyweight division so far, I don't mean to say he's had a bit of an easy time. But if you were a strong, big guy at heavyweight with a bunch of KO power, I could not pick a better first 3 opponents than Junior Albini, Alan Crowder, and Andrei Arlovski. You're talking about the chinniest of the chinnies. And that's exactly what Rosenstruik got. And then he took on a real test in Alistair Overeem. Alistair Overeem was supposed to be taking on Walt Harris as well. That's when Walt Harris had to pull off the card, I believe, anyway. And then Rosenstruik stepped in after a big win against Andrei Arlovski. It wasn't really short notice because he had a full camp for Arlovski. So I kind of count that as a full camp for Overeem as well, because when you're new to the game, I doubt Rosenstruik's training too specific for his opponents, if you know what I mean. He's so new to the game, I don't think he's drilling very, very specific things. I think he's just trying to improve himself overall, which is what new guys to the game tend to do. Overeem fight was a little bit suspect to Jairzinho Rozenstruik, because I don't mean to employ some MMA math, but the MMA math routine seems to be used as like I have a black friend. Having a black friend is actually a really good excuse for not being racist, but it just gets shunned and people say you can't use that, it's too easy to explain. MMA math is a great tool to use, and I'm about to use it very effectively. I believe, and I'm not going to judge the entire fight based on this, but I think that if Overeem can land those combinations that he was doing on you for 4 rounds, Mr. Kickboxer Rosenstruik, and you can't KO him until the very end, and even that was a little bit of a controversial KO, but let's talk about the rounds before then as well. In that first round, when Overeem's catching you with these big shots, and you aren't KOing him, Ngannou's kind of different. You know, like, if you're getting hit by any of those shots that Overeem hit you with, one of those shots from Ngannou will KO you. It doesn't matter if you've never been KO'd before. It doesn't matter if you've got a great chin. If you take those shots clean now, especially with a new, more patient, relaxed, wait for his opportunity Ngannou, it's going to be big problems. It's going to be really big problems for Rosenstruik, and I just don't see how he's going to get over that. He's got a massive reach disadvantage to deal with here, and especially, usually that doesn't mean a lot, but when you're talking about guys that use their hands so much in the fight, at heavyweight as well, reach advantage really can make a huge difference in the fight, and I think Ngannou's just going to catch him. I really do. I think Rosenstruik's going to be the aggressor. I think we're going to have a bit of a stalemate for maybe a minute of the fight. And I think we're going to be trading leg kicks back and forth. And Ngannou has great leg kicks, by the way. And he used them against JDS. And here's another thing I wanted to talk about in this video. You want to know how I know Ngannou's going to win? Because Joe Rogan, in an attempt to hype up this fight, when he was talking with, who's the guy that he talked? Jim Norton, I believe his name is, the bald American guy. He was talking on JRE and he was hyping up this fight, and I've just watched this video earlier today, so I remember it very clearly. And in order to hype up the fight between Rosenstruik and Ngannou, Joe Rogan had to lie about Rosenstruik. You know? Like, he did not mention that Rosenstruik got... So, if the promo for this fight is to lie about everything we know about Rosenstruik from Joe Rogan, to make it seem like this is somewhat even, he said Rosenstruik was the same size as Ngannou. He's not. He says Rosenstruik has a similar reach and frame. Well, he doesn't whatsoever. He said Rosenstruik... what else did he say? Oh, we saw that JDS had huge success against Ngannou with the leg kicks. No, he fucking didn't. JDS kicked Ngannou twice in the legs. Ngannou kicked JDS twice back. And by the way, Ngannou's looked like they hit way harder than JDS's did. So that's a lie. I just feel like if you have to lie and big up some weaknesses in Ngannou and the strengths of Rosenstruik, it may not be a great argument for saying that Rosenstruik's going to win. I understand full well that a lot of people are going to pick Rosenstruik here, because if there's anyone who's got a chance of KOing Ngannou, I would say it would be Stipe or Rosenstruik in the entire division. Okay? Because they hit fucking hard, they're very technical, and they don't have to hit that hard either because of how technical they are. They're going to land straight on the chin, and at heavyweight, you don't need to put everything behind your shots to KO someone, as we can see with Rosenstruik's fadeaways over certain guys. I just feel like he's not going to win. Rosenstruik ain't going to win. And I know he could catch Ngannou. I know, I understand your position here. Anything can happen and he's a huge underdog. But that's not the way to think. You know, like I just think Ngannou's better in so many areas. And again, the Overeem fight is a real sour taste in my mouth. I'll be honest with you guys. A real sour taste. Watching that Rosenstruik and Ngannou fight, I mean... watching that Rosenstruik versus Overeem fight is really worrying when you come up against Ngannou, because Ngannou had none of those troubles. You know, Overeem took down Rosenstruik at will and kept him there. I know for large majorities of that fight, including some of the rounds would end with Rosenstruik being on bottom for the fucking end half of the round. Ngannou had none of those problems. Even if you don't want to agree that grappling is going to take place in this fight, that's just another advantage for Ngannou. Minor things that add up during this time. We're under a pandemic. There aren't great training camps. No one's getting the best training camp of their life. One guy's already a prime physical specimen in Francis Ngannou, and Rosenstruik used to be a smaller kickboxer And now he's at heavyweight and he's put on a whole bunch of body fat to get there because he knows it's a way quicker route to success in the UFC. If anyone wants any success and you're somewhat athletic in the world, join the heavyweight division, because there are a bunch of cans down there with no chins that you could catch with one punch, and all of a sudden people are saying that you're some fucking genius on the feet. That's how it works. Rosenstruik used to be a much smaller man. He's gotten a lot bigger to be at a heavyweight. That is not his natural weight class. I know a lot of people say that Rosenstruik is a heavyweight. I could very easily see an in-shape Rosenstruik at light heavyweight. I'm sure we all could. That's where he used to fight. I mean, Rosenstruik used to have fucking 8-pack when he used to be a kickboxer. Way smaller than a lot of his opponents as well. I just feel like Ngannou's going to get him. If there was one time not to run into Ngannou, it would be one fight away from his title shot that he's been looking for so fucking long. Because no one has been put through a ringer like Ngannou has been put through. I mean, look at his recent resume. If you look at Ngannou's recent resume, after losing to Stipe Miocic and Derek Lewis, I understand the Derek Lewis loss should still be counted as a loss, but I also understand that not really. Because no one won that fight between him and Derek Lewis. So I almost don't even count that fight. Let's say a no contest between him and Derek Lewis. He's then had to run through Curtis Blades. Straight away. The wrestler that Ngannou had no chance of beating, people were saying. I picked him to beat Curtis Blades. He KO'd Curtis Blades in the first round. Then he fights Cain Velasquez. Another heavy grinder grappler that's designed to beat Ngannou. It's almost like the UFC were thinking to themselves, how can we get rid of this guy? He's too promotable. We can't have him here. We need to get rid of him out of the promotion. And they gave him Cain Velasquez after a long comeback. Everyone was saying Velasquez is going to beat him. I said Ngannou's going to KO him in the first round. That's exactly what happened. Then he fights Junior Dos Santos. Another nightmare matchup. Big, strong guy, same size as him. Same reasonable power, but also quite chinny as well. And Ngannou deals with him in the first round. I just don't know if I could say that Jairzinho Rozenstruik would annihilate Junior Dos Santos. I don't know that. If you put Rozenstruik against Curtis Blades, after watching the Overeem fight, look what Blades did to Overeem, and now look what Overeem did to Rozenstruik. It's just like there's a different level at heavyweight. I feel like there's top 5 and then there's everyone else, and everyone else is completely fair game. And right now I feel like Jairzinho Rozenstruik's maybe bitten off a little bit more than he can chew, and I think he's going to be in a very rare situation where the guy in front of him is not chinny as fuck, like everyone else at heavyweight that he's fought so far, in Overeem, Arlovski, Junior Albini, and Alan fucking Crowder. Like, I just don't think it's going to go well for him. It's a completely different situation. This fight is completely different than any other one that he's had in his career. He's going to be staring across the cage from a larger man, a faster man, with longer reach, and more power. It's just not right. And the grappling advantage, if you want to chuck that in, and the physical advantage, just naturally, without training camp. He's going to be in better shape. Also, it's under 3 rounds, which means that Ngannou's not going to be so cautious about blowing his gas tank, which is a huge advantage for Ngannou, because Ngannou is one of these guys who pays a lot of attention to the clock, I'm assuming. I know he likes to wait in that first round, but if you remember before Ngannou fought Stipe, he used to come out like a fucking savage. And then when he realised what 5 rounds was like, and realised he needed to be a little bit more patient, things got a little bit more relaxed. I feel like we're going to see an Ngannou that has less to care about in a 3rd round, in a 3-round fight, has way more power than Rozenstruik, and I think he's going to connect on him. Rozenstruik is a traditional striker. He throws straights. He throws clean hooks. He does everything perfect. Ngannou does none of those things. You know, Rozenstruik comes with straights. He comes from hooks. Ngannou's strictly uppercuts and shots from the waist that you don't see coming. There is nothing that Rozenstruik can do to train for Ngannou. Ngannou can train for Rozenstruik, because guess what? There's a lot of heavyweights that are somewhat good at kickboxing that Ngannou could find, including, by the way, someone who I would say is maybe equally credentialed, and not equally credentialed in kickboxing, but an equally quite good kickboxer in Ngannou's camp right now, Cyril fucking Gane, at the heavyweight division, a monstrous heavyweight who's a great kickboxer, who came from kickboxing as well, that does everything perfectly, that's a bigger version of Rozenstruik, that Ngannou can train with constantly. Cyril Gane is Ngannou's main training partner here. I don't know what Rozenstruik's gonna do. I know Rozenstruik could chin Ngannou, and if honestly, that would be a horrible thing to see. If I'm being honest with you guys, I wouldn't want to see that. Imagine Ngannou getting fade away check hooked and just completely slept out cold. the whole promotability of Ngannou would just vanish. Like, there's nothing you can do. Once you see that big scary monster get KO'd, it's almost like, he's not too big and scary anymore. You know, like, we don't mind seeing that big scary monster lose a terrible fight because it was a close decision between him and Derek Lewis. We don't mind if that big scary monster just gets kept back for 5 rounds by Stipe Miocic and just survives, and Miocic manages to weather the storm the entire fight. We don't mind that. But when you watch him get KO'd, all of a sudden, he's not so scary anymore. So I'm hoping that Ngannou wins. I think that Ngannou's got this one in the bag. I don't see how else. Rosenstruik's just a bit too small. I think the uppercuts are going to be there for Ngannou. I think he throws awkward angles. He's not going to blitz forward with 1-2 straights like Arlovski did. He's not going to fucking stand there like a nonce like Junior Albini did. He's not going to fucking charge into a jab against a guy who has a massive reach disadvantage from him like Alan Crowder did. He's not going to fucking... I don't know, because they're not 5 rounds, so I guess he can't do what Overeem did, which was dominate the entire fight and then get stopped via early stoppage. It was an early stoppage against Overeem, okay? And I understand why the ref stopped it, because Rosenstruik walked off and tried to do a walk-off KO, which means the referee shits himself. I've said this a million times. When guys do walk-off KOs, the referee doesn't want to ruin the moment, so he calls off the fight. So if you want to get an early stoppage win, after you drop someone, stick your hands up, go walking around the octagon, the referee will do the rest for you. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. I think Ngannou KO'd him in the first round. I hope I've covered everything here. I really do. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I know I did this prediction before, but this one is a little bit more in depth and a little bit more excited because those fights are coming around the corner. And I can't wait for that UFC 249 card because it is fucking stacked. Click that button now. Goodbye. See you later. Ngannou by first round KO in the first 2 minutes.